Deadpool and Wolverine includes some of the finest, most complex CGI work in the franchise so far. To give you an idea of just how much work went into it, here are a few glimpses at what Deadpool and Wolverine looks like without special effects. In the scene that sees Cassandra Nova, played by Emma Corrin, summon an army of Deadpool variants to fight Deadpool and Wolverine, you might have assumed, given the sheer number of Deadpools on screen, that at least some of them were created via CGI. But as it turns out, the crowd was almost entirely real.
Told you there were a lot of Deadpools over there.
As revealed in a behind-the-scenes VFX demo reel released by Framestore, there really were dozens of performers in Deadpool suits walking together in that scene, including such striking variants as Welsh Deadpool and Golden Age Deadpool. Only one variant was a CGI creation as opposed to a live actor, naturally Baby Deadpool. Otherwise, the only CGI additions to the scene were the city background, save for a handful of practical scenery elements like a parked bus and the portal through which the variants emerge. Matthew Macfadyen is no stranger to portraying discomfort and despair. It's part of what earned him so much acclaim in roles like Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice and Tom Wambsgans in Succession. His ability to effortlessly project that kind of sustained anxiety made him a great fit to play Mr. Paradox in Deadpool and Wolverine. But in addition to playing to his strengths, the movie also made unique demands of him as an actor. Specifically, in the scene where Cassandra Nova phases her hand through Paradox's head, the Framestore reel reveals that the shot was accomplished by filming Macfadyen normally, then layering the effect on top of him via CGI.
You know she doesn't wash that hand.
Macfadyen had to act as though his face were being invaded by a hand, which must have been a pretty challenging task, even for a two-time Emmy-winning actor. Mary Bubbins, aka Dogpool, was famously played by Peggy, the Puggy's dog, who was crowned Britain's ugliest dog in 2023, then turned her infamy around by becoming a global superstar. Some of the more physically demanding shots of Dogpool were accomplished by filming Peggy as a reference and then animating a CGI model in accordance with her movement, while others featured Peggy in the flesh.
Sweet little puppy.
Even for some of the shots featuring the real Peggy, however, VFX artists augmented her performance by giving her goggles. Within the goggles lenses, Dogpool's eyes were widened and animated with CGI, allowing the filmmakers to avail themselves of Peggy's tour de force physicality while having more control over the directions in which Dogpool was looking at any given moment. It's not unheard of for films to give actors some extra pounds of muscle via CGI, and given that Hugh Jackman's body in Deadpool and Wolverine is so lean and muscular as to look sculpted in stone, you might have wondered if it really looked like that in real life. As a matter of fact, it did. The Framestore reel shows that in the sequence where Wade and Logan absorb the power of the chambers of matter and antimatter, the only CGI additions were the flow of red-hot energy coursing through Logan's body and the rifts being opened on his skin. The muscles themselves, including the dilated veins on Jackman's arms, were, well, practical. Granted, even without any CGI involved, one could argue Hollywood's muscle-building regimens, like the one Jackman underwent to get ripped for Deadpool and Wolverine, are their own kind of special effect. The Time Ripper, the cubic device with timeline-destroying capabilities owned by the Time Variance Authority and eventually hijacked by Cassandra Nova, is one of the most impressive pieces of production design in Deadpool and Wolverine. Its edgeless cubic shape, the dense batch of wires and reset charges of which it's made up, and the surreal mass of energy it produces in the subway station all combine to form the kind of mind-boggling visual that blockbusters are made to deliver. Even more impressively, it was a practical set.
Every bit of light and wiring and nut and bolt and screw is it's incredible.
While the massive energy behind it was naturally CGI, the Time Ripper itself was an actual glowing white cube full of glass and metal parts, which Emma Corrin physically interacted with in Nova's climactic scene. Let that serve as yet another testament to the power of practical effects. If there's one technical aspect that the Deadpool franchise has become known for, it's the incredibly elaborate and energetic stunt work. The craftsmanship of the stunt team is once again on display in Deadpool and Wolverine, which offers up some of the most brutal and balletic sequences in the series so far. But what you may not realize is that some measure of CGI work was involved in pulling off some of the stunts, namely by hiding the rigs.
The MO from the beginning of this movie was, we want it in camera. We don't want to play with this in post. We want to bake this into the lens.
As the Framestore reel shows, in Deadpool's opening fight against the various Time Variance Authority agents attempting to arrest him, one stunt performer's movement of being intensely vaulted backwards and falling on his back was accomplished via rigging. He was literally pulled upward and backward, and the VFX team proceeded to hide the cables. Talk about interdepartmental teamwork. Another interesting tidbit about the opening forest fight is that not all of it was shot on location. Although in a rare and amusing case of another country standing in for Vancouver, Canada, instead of the other way around, the production did hop over to Black Park in Buckinghamshire, UK, to shoot some of the forest sequence. The Framestore reel reveals that at least one shot was filmed in a soundstage. Namely, it's a shot in which the camera spins around Deadpool as he takes on numerous TVA agents at once. In the reel, we can see that the shot used what appears to be video wall technology, similar to the stagecraft tech used in previous Marvel productions like The Marvels and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We do know that it's not specifically stagecraft though, because no stagecraft crew is credited by Industrial Light and Magic in the film. Much like Framestore, Industrial Light and Magic also released a behind-the-scenes VFX reel for their work on Deadpool and Wolverine, and it contains a lot of fascinating stuff. For one thing, the reel shows that the Void scenes were shot using a combination of digital environments and real locations. The dry, rocky terrain of the Void is real. It's the soil of Pitstone Quarry, a chalk quarry in Buckinghamshire, which was used as a location for the scene. But as seen in the shot where Wolverine and Deadpool walk slowly while sizing each other up, a lot of elements of the Void were inserted digitally, with the most notable being the replacement of the green, tree-filled horizon of Pitstone Quarry with even more miles and miles of barren land. While Ryan Reynolds' physical and vocal performance as Deadpool are perfect for the character, the fact remains that the mask hides a lot of his facial acting. We know from previous VFX reels showcasing what Deadpool films look like without CGI that Deadpool's mask is animated in post-production to give him more expressive features. And for Deadpool and Wolverine, one specific shot saw localized use of CGI combined with another equally specific use. During the epic katanas versus claws fight between Deadpool and Wolverine in the Void, the shot in which Wade reaches out to grab his sword and swings around to strike at Logan again used CGI for two purposes. The first one was animating Wade's mask, and the second was creating his right-hand katana, which was not actually a practical prop in that shot. But never mind faces and swords, there are shots in Deadpool and Wolverine in which the entirety of the titular characters is the work of CGI wizards. Digital models of both Wolverine and Deadpool were created to make some sequences easier, and they're so good that you might not even have noticed you weren't looking at live actors. Take the scene in which Wolverine gets on all fours and charges towards Deadpool like, well, a Wolverine. It wasn't actually Jackman hunching down and doing that superhumanly fast quadrupedal running. The Wolverine in that scene is 100% CGI, even in the reverse shots that show his face. The animators did a great job of making the model look indistinguishable from a real human being in those few seconds. The various performers involved in the scene at Nova's lair, including principal actors, background actors, and stuntmen, will have to get together to pull off a convincing group performance in the shot that finds Alioth, the terrifying guardian of the Void, attacking them. As shown in the ILM reel, the scene was shot on a soundstage, and the shot of Alioth descending upon Nova's base was done by keying in the background of the set. This method left everyone on screen reacting to an imaginary Alioth, whether by panicking, hesitating in confusion, or preparing to somehow take it on. Emma Corrin, meanwhile, had to walk away from the scene, indifferent, which may well have been the toughest acting challenge in that particular shot. The giant Ant-Man corpse, which serves as a meeting spot for Nova and her henchmen, wasn't practical, though it certainly would have been interesting to see Marvel's take on the gigantic Metropolis-esque set for that scene. The structure around the Ant-Man corpse, however, was real, as we can see in the ILM reel.
Like, it was all there and all functional. It's mind-blowing.
In the shot where the Ant-Man helmet opens for Cassandra Nova to emerge from it, the metal rails and scaffolds propping up the lair structure, the jawline of the helmet, and the central staircase are all practical. The only elements of the set that are 100% digital are the shoulders and the top of the helmet, though the CGI artist did construct and work with a model of the entire set, including the practical components. The most interesting thing about CGI showcase reels is that they show just how many layers of visual effects go into a given shot. In the overhead shot at the start of the Resistance's fight against Nova's henchmen, for instance, there are at least 3 layers. First, the practical pyrotechnics, sparks and gunfire and smoke going off around the set. Second, the computer-generated environmental details, including laser blasts, force fields, additional smoke, and the glow of Gambit's bow staff. And third, the fully CGI animated henchmen taking part in the scene. The fight scene between the Resistance and Nova's goons culminates in Deadpool and Wolverine getting the heck out of there via interdimensional portal, a staple of the MCU since Doctor Strange, and all the more so since acting as a catalyst for the franchise's biggest scene ever in Avengers Endgame. We've seen our share of MCU characters jumping in and out of portals by now, which raises the question, how often are the actors themselves actually jumping? In Deadpool and Wolverine, as the ILM reel reveals, Deadpool and Wolverine really did jump though into a portal, from a practical inside of a skull set into a chroma key pit. Since their backs are to the camera, we can't know for sure whether it was Reynolds and Jackman or two stuntmen in the shot, but the fact remains that two people did jump.